All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Leadership to Wealth podcast. And I've got a really interesting guest on today because we're going to talk real estate. He is an Army officer with over 8 years service, and he was spending a great deal of time away from the family. He knew he needed to do something different because he wanted to be more present with his wife and kids. And his interest in real estate actually began back in 2007 when he purchased his first home. And then he began investigating that real estate journey a little bit more. And in a short amount of time, he was able to expand his business, hire a team. And what we're going to talk about today is he's really found a niche and really enjoying vacant land. Yeah, just a man out in his field. So he outstanding in his field. That's how it goes. And so he's going to talk a little bit about that and what it's like to also be a coach in this space. And our guest today, Brent Bowers. Brent, good to have you on the show today.
Hey, great to be here, Neil. Appreciate you summarizing that. It came with a lot of mistakes and failures, and just taking action when I didn't know if it was going to yield anything.
Yeah, I definitely get that. Brent, give us a little bit of background there. You're there as an Army officer, and you're obviously being called all over the place. And are you still in the military, or did you leave as a result of your real estate business?
I have completely left, and it was thank God for the real estate business. I started making enough passive income with land to allow me to exit the military. And it's quite a process. I had a couple years to get approved to get out. But ultimately, I was trying to get out of the military. I was searching for something that would allow me to make enough income so I wouldn't be homeless. The thing about the military, they provide everything you need, except for you're just never home with your family. You're always gone. And the reason why I joined the military in 2009 was because I failed in real estate from 2007 to 2009. So it didn't start off all sunshine and rainbows. I started in 2007. I don't think I was really successful in it until about 2015. I'm probably, and I've always found myself in leadership positions. So I was really attracted to this podcast, but leaders make a lot of mistakes too.
Yeah. Well, I think that's really for me, leadership is about making mistakes. Because how do you lead someone without having gone through the difficult times, right? And that experience is really the key. And we talk about shortening the learning curve, right? To building wealth in different areas of our life: financial, fitness, family, faith, all of these things that are most important to us. How do you do that? And so it's a great story that you had that difficulty because you're able to pass that on. And I was just sharing with with one of my partners, and where I said, you know how easy it is when we talk to somebody to know whether they actually invest in real estate or not. In a couple of minutes, because we've all got our war stories, so to say, where we've messed up, and so when someone's talking to you and you're like, oh, this person doesn't actually know what it's like. They've never gone through anything, so very quickly, and so it's good that you're able to share that stuff. Now I gotta ask, because I like multifamily real estate, and I also love private lending, or as they call it in the States, hard money lending. But tell me about vacant land. How did you become, a land coach and getting into, I'm guess, selling vacant land, or maybe, working on tell us about that.
Yeah, it all started by hearing a podcast. Early
Yeah.
2015, I was preparing to get out of the military. We had just
Yeah.
had our first baby. I was preparing
Yeah.
for combat deployment number 3.
Yeah.
What a lot of people don't know is like, okay, you're gone, you're deployed for a year or 9 months, but here's the thing: you also have to train for about a year prior. So technically, you're gone sometimes a year and a half, 2 years. So I was scared to death. I was like, man, I cannot go down this route again. I had already had one marriage fail because I was always gone. On marriage number 2, love this lady, still married to her today, thank God.
Yeah.
3 babies later, but I needed to make a change very quickly because I was petrified history was going to repeat itself, and
Yeah.
I was going to be another deployment, another divorce, and now I've got children all over the world that I never see. It didn't happen like that.
Wait. Hang on. You've got children all over the world?
Well, I shouldn't say that. I would be
Okay.
on one side of the world, and my kids would be on
Oh,
another.
oh, oh,
Uh,
okay. Got it.
so no, only have children, 3 children with one lady, thank God, and I'm still
Yes.
married to her, and plan to be for a very, very long time until death do
Right.
us part. Uh,
Got
but
it.
I had a huge why. Like, I had to get
Yeah.
my butt in gear. So I was willing to take the rejection. I was willing to get up early every single morning, even though I had to be on base at 6 a.m. So I was getting up at 4 a.m. to work on my business. I was listening to 4 Hour Work Week every time I drove in my car.
Yeah.
So by Timothy Ferriss.
Good. Tim Ferriss. Yep.
So I turned my car into a mobile university. I was all about what is the most productive thing I can be doing at this very second when I wasn't working for the military, 12, 13, 14-hour days. So I heard a podcast talking about flipping vacant raw land. And I'm from a county called Okeechobee, or I grew up in Okeechobee, Florida. Very small cattle town in Florida. It's just above the big old lake in Florida. But our biggest producer of income is feeder calves. So basically, we have cattle. And I know one thing about cattle. I'm not a cowboy, but I know one thing, and that's eventually they all go to get slaughtered. So I didn't want to do the herd mentality. Everyone else was chasing after the stinky old dirty cat pee houses, fighting over the duplexes, fighting over the multifamily. And I had already had rentals, so I understood the chaos. And I didn't want to replace one job with another because rentals for me was a job. Even with property management and tenants and termites. And we've got one property right now. We just replaced the sewer line, the furnace, the refrigerator, and had to put in gutters. And now the tenant's saying there's puddles in the yard, so we got to re-excavate because there's a negative grade. I'm pulling my hair out. I will never cash flow on this house until I sell it, maybe, hopefully, one day down the road. So why land? It's because no one else was doing it. And I was like, if it's working half as well as this guy on the podcast is talking about, he's doubling his money like overnight, I want some of that. So I immediately started sending postcards, and interrupt me anytime, Neil. I started sending postcards to vacant, raw landowners. There was nothing on this land. And there was one more caveat to that. They were behind on their taxes. And it was a pain in the butt to get this list. I can talk about how I got it. But I started mailing it, and the phone started ringing, and I literally started doing deals right away. My first land deal was $285, not buildable land, garbage land. Most people would just never even look at this. I flipped it to a realtor for $5,000, and that was how I got my start. The next one was $500, and it was this one was landlocked. There was no access to this legally. It was surrounded by a big park.
Come on, you picked up a piece of property for $500?
The second one was $500.
Oh, the second one. Okay.
Yeah.
And how much was the first one?
I bought it for $285 from a retired CPA that traded tax work many, many years ago. And that's exactly the amount he owed on the back taxes. So he was not emotionally attached to this land. He's never stepped foot on it. He didn't care about it.
See, guys, this is why you listen to a podcast. Here Brent was listening to a podcast, and it began his journey in selling land, and you're hearing about that right now. So, guys, listen up, because this is some good stuff. Come on, Brent, tell us some more about how you got land. Literally, people are throwing it away, at those prices.
It was literally that's saying that you hear one man's trash is another man or woman's treasure.
Yeah.
That second land deal for $500, this one was even worse. Like it was landlocked. It was like surrounded by state park land. And me personally, in my mind, I didn't think there was much value in it. So I just put it on Craigslist. I was like, well, $500. And let me tell you, it was early 2016 when I bought this. I wasn't swimming in money. I wasn't like rolling in dough. I had one baby at this time. I could barely afford diapers. Like $500 was a lot of money, but luckily I just made $5,000. That first one that I bought for $285, that was a lot of money to me. I found that realtor before I bought that land. But the second one, I was like, okay, I'm profitable. So let's go on Craigslist. I actually walked across the state park to get pictures of that land. Trespassed, actually. But I put it all on Craigslist. The photos I disclosed. You need to get legal access through an egress attorney or a title attorney that can get you legal access because it's landlocked. Yeah. That next day, someone came to my house and gave me $500 down, and he promised to pay $400 a month for a total of $5,000 for this parcel. And I was hooked because that one was covering my truck payment of $400 a month. And I told my wife, I was like, if we do this 10 more times, we are financially free. We have enough money coming in to cover our expenses each month. Yes. And do the math. Like that's like $4,500 a month.
There's no way. Okay, come on. I'll bite. So you happen to get this first one. You managed to find this next one, and then what? And now this one's now paying your truck.
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, great. How do I do more of this?
Yeah, and I did. I kept sending out letters, and we have obviously evolved into a better system strategy because I ran out of those tax delinquent parcels really quickly.
Right.
And I had to go to another market, and we just kept rinsing and repeating. And like the fourth land deal was a bank. A bank calls me and says, listen, you send us a letter, you send us your postcard. What's your offer? And I had no clue what I was doing. I was like, the fourth land deal. So I remember sitting at my Army officer desk, and I'm like, close the door because I'm like, this is a bank. Like these guys, I can't believe they're calling me. Like a bank. Who do they realize I don't even have money? Like actually, I did. I had done a few land deals. I had like I think $8,000 in the bank account at that time, and I had paid off some credit cards. But still, I was like scared to death. They wanted $25,000 for the land. I was like, I can only pay $20,000. I didn't know what it was worth because I didn't have my system built out yet. I was just looking at what the county assessors said it was worth, which by the way, that's garbage. They were completely off. Don't go off of that.
Right.
Go off of what comparable land parcels are selling for. Talk to land specialist real estate agents. How do you find those guys? Look on Redfin and Zillow and look at the land that's selling and call those agents. So basically, we come to the agreement of $25,000. They were a better negotiator than I was because I wanted it for 20. They said 25. And I said, let's just do it. I signed the agreement on Friday night. I didn't sleep that night because I was scared to death because I didn't have $25,000. Nor did I know how to get it. So I went out that Saturday morning and I wrote 44 acres. This was right next to Schriever Air Force Base in Colorado Springs.
Okay.
For $100,000 is what it was worth, about $100,000. Now that land's probably worth $500,000-$600,000. I wish I would have kept it a lot longer. But anyhow, never look in the rearview mirror. There's a reason why it's really small. Look in the windshield. But I went out and put signs everywhere. 44 acres, $38K, phone number. So I had it under contract for $25,000 with the bank. I just wanted to assign my contract. I wanted to sell it to someone that had some money.
Yes.
Well, first call I got, they were chewing me out because I put the sign on someone else's property. The second one, I'm bracing for impact. I think it was almost out. I had about 20 signs out at that point. I was going to put signs out until it got dark or I ran out of signs.
What are we talking about? Like some handwritten signs?
Handwritten with a big black Sharpie marker on, the back of a yellow sign. You know how you see these signs all over the place? We buy houses, those band signs.
Yes.
I had basically the blank ones. You can get them from Home Depot. You can buy the corrugated plastic. I was putting them out there. I was stapling them to wooden telephone poles, people's fence lines. I had gotten to about 20 or so on that second call. And I
44 acres for sale.
44 acres.
And a phone number.
38K.
38K. Phone number.
That's it.
Okay.
That second call, sweet Texan. He said, listen, where are you at? And I'm like a little nervous because I had just gotten reamed out 10 minutes prior. And I was like, he's like, I see these signs popping up all over the place. We just sold our ranch in Texas. We need a place to buy. Where are you at? And I was like, well, let's meet at the land. And
I'm at Okeechobee, Florida.
no, I thought about telling that because I was a little nervous. I was like, is this the police calling me or what?
Yeah.
So
Sheriff's office coming in for you.
Yeah, we meet on the side of the road. He goes, I'll take it. We shook hands. I said, sounds good. We'll get you the paperwork. And I'm just making stuff up at this point. We'll get you in touch with the title company. I'm going to sign my contract. He didn't understand what I meant by that. Yeah. Basically, I was selling the contract to him that I had with the bank. And the next day I got a $14,000 higher offer. And now I was at a crossroads in my life. So I was already going to make about $13,000 plus an additional $14,000. Now my greedar is going now, like my greed level. Cause I mean, geez, do the math. That was like $28,000 I was going to make off that one land deal. So I called one of my mentors. I was like, what do I do? We just shook hands on the side of the road. He goes, Brent, I think you know the right answer, and pretty much hung up on me. So I called the Texan back and I was like, hey, I got a higher offer than what you made. I know we shook hands. It's for $14,000 more than what you offered to pay. You agreed to pay. What if we just split that $14K? I'll give you $7,000 for meet me on the side of the road. He goes, no, I want the land. So I swallowed hard and I said, let's just do it. And let me tell you, I'm so glad that that decision, I made the right decision because $28,000 doing, over 300 land deals is nothing now because they just, I mean, it's changed my life.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Woo. All right, guys. Here we go. Okay. So the things you can learn just by listening to a podcast. So you find this piece of land. Now you're at the side of the road talking to a Texan and you're shaking his hand, which I really appreciate the fact that you honored that deal, even with shaking his hand. And I'm sure there's lots of people that'll sit there and say, yeah, you don't have any paperwork on it. You know, until the paperwork's signed, it doesn't mean anything, but it means something when you and I look in the mirror and look at who we are and how we're going to do business. And it's important to be able to conduct ourselves that way and do business with people that conduct themselves that way. Right. And, anyways, that I love that. I really do appreciate that you took that stance. So then you go ahead, you make this deal. And now for those of you guys that are listening, when he talks about a signing, what it means is you've got it under contract and they're going to sell it to you, and you probably put in that clause or something similar that says and or assigns, which means that he can then put in someone else's name or put in a company name or any of those kind of things, and in exchange you charged a finder's fee and off you went. And so you sold it to him. He actually bought it. You didn't have to come up with the money yourself. You got to keep the difference, and an empire was started.
Yeah, so true. And it cost me about, I don't know, $100 in signs, maybe a full tank of gas in that 2007 Honda Civic I was driving. It kind of sucked because the air conditioner didn't work, but that's all it cost me in about a half day on Saturday.
Well, I love this. I love that you're bootstrapping it. I've got to ask, because you mentioned you called your coach or mentor there.
Yeah, his name is Cody Hoffine. He runs a very, very successful wholesaling company. He was one of the founders of Wholesaling Inc. Wholesaling Inc. podcast. I'm now I've got the honor to be one of the hosts on the Wholesaling Inc. podcast now. So, those little small decisions we make in life, not to screw someone over whenever we shake hands, thank God I made the right decision. Did I think about making the wrong decision? Absolutely.
So you had a coach going into these deals.
Yeah, he wasn't a land specific coach. He was more of a wholesaling coach. He taught wholesaling houses, but the same techniques can be used for land. Land's just a lot easier. There's a lot less moving parts. I mean, there's nothing on the land. There's vacant. It's raw. And what's amazing is sellers are so much less emotional when it comes to land, something they've never stepped foot on, or they inherited it, or they bought it 20 years ago. It's not like a multifamily parcel or a multifamily project where the guy put his blood, sweat, and tears managing it for 20 years, and this is his like livelihood, and he's got multiple offers and people bidding like wars. Like land's a lot less competition, and I just prefer the play in those waters that are not muddied or as bloody.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Well, it's interesting. I like multifamily, but I found that I like a higher class, or perhaps more expensive than the average, because it's got larger units, and if someone's not comfortable with the infrastructure that you need, and I find a lot of people that get into multifamily, they like to go into the smaller number of units because they think to themselves, well, I can handle that, right? I can do that stuff. And I'm thinking, I got 4 kids. If I start getting my hands into stuff, I'll never see my kids. I will have just bought myself another job, right? So I'm really intrigued by what you're sharing here about vacant land. I mean, we've got lots of vacant land up here in the Great White North of Canada, but I'm really interested. So now you're saying you got a mentor, and he's really on this wholesaling side, not land specific. How did you even figure this out on how to find land?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Neil, I would have bet $100 that you weren't into D and C or even B class apartments. Just looking at that beautiful jacket you're wearing, I know you're in A plus properties.
Thank you. You know something great about this jacket? So you see, it's got my little pocket square. That's actually the pocket. I love it. They now make it so that if I don't have a pocket square, all I do is take the pocket and pull it out. It looks like I got a pocket square. So
I see. That's pretty high tech. Okay, that's cool.
It's great.
To answer your question, that's a really good question. I didn't know all the answers, and I had my back against the wall. My biggest thing, there was nothing I could lose anymore. Like, I had already basically been homeless in 2009 before I joined the military. I mean, I was humble, and I had rose through the ranks in the military, got to E5 sergeant, and then the Army saw something in me, and they poured into me and sent me to college for a couple years. But let me tell you, being a brand new second lieutenant, that's like no respect whatsoever. And I was like, man, I've already got 2 combat deployments. I was a sergeant. I was a leader. And now you guys are treating me like garbage. So I was like, F it. I have nothing to lose. I don't care the worst I can do is lose a little money on a piece of land, and eventually maybe I can hunt on it.
I'll tell you something funny, Brent, because I used to work for the military as a civilian. And I know what the guys say about someone at that rank. Behind your back, typically they say, "Oh, that guy couldn't tie his own shoelaces." So,
yep, I will say that. Yeah, and the thing was, it's like, and whatever. I'll have some haters for saying this, but officers eat their own, and I didn't like being an officer. Couldn't stand it. Couldn't stand it. When I was enlisted, I was taken very well care of. Even though I was the worker, I was the backbone. But officers, like I literally sat at my desk, but I got treated like crap. But anyhow, we're not talking about the military here. I want to get the heck out. But I had nothing to lose. I didn't care. I needed to be the leader for my family. I needed to get out so I can be with my family. My wife was on the other side of the country with our baby, pregnant with our second child. So I just manned up and took the action. And if you're a woman listening to this, I'll tell you what, I surrounded myself with smart people. One of my first hires was a woman to help me answer the phone. She's still with me today. Her name is Jen Way. And she helped me take some of these phone calls, but I didn't know all the answers. I knew the basic fundamentals that here's how to make money in land or investing or multifamily or houses. You need to do income producing activities. You need to reach out to owners of the land or the houses or the mobile homes or whatever the heck you're going for and connect them with buyers. And that's all I focused on. I need to reach out to landowners that want to get rid of their land at a discount. And it's got to be a discount because I got to make profit. And I told them, I was like, look, I don't know really what I'm doing. This is my side hustle. I'm in the military, but I'd like to buy your land for this much. And then
so there's this buyers. So let me ask, so you're finding there's some sort of list out there, maybe with the land registry offices or something like that. And I'm guessing they're probably in all the counties, maybe in all the different states. They've got some type of availability where they just list who has this land, and you get access to this. And if someone gets access to this, then they're able to get contact information for the people.
You got it. And it can be done virtually. Like I work with a lot of Canadians. I'm not teaching them how to buy Canadian land because I have no clue how to do that.
But wait, you work with Canadians like me?
Oh yeah, we've got several in the Land Sharks community. So we built a community. But anyhow, like let me talk to you about that list.
Come on, all my Canadians, listen up here. Here we go.
Yeah. So I mean, you can buy U.S. land. Like all you need is a LLC that you can go to Prime Corporate Services and they set you up with an LLC for like a couple $100, whatever. So Prime Corporate Services, you might even have a link to that. But basically what I do is I teach people how to go to redfin.com or Zillow.com and find what I call the heat maps, the hot areas. In house wholesaling, we called it the hot zip code. So let's just put in Orlando, Florida, and that's in Redfin. And then you want to go to all filters in the top right-hand section and go to sold. You want to see the solds because that tells me where the demand's at. Then land, and then look at the last 7 days. And then, I keep scrolling down. So again, all filters, land, sold, last 7 days, and then go and exit out of Orlando, Florida, because you want to get rid of that outline on the map, and you want to zoom out. Now we're looking for clusters of sold land. Once you find that, and real estate is micro, I want to micro down to the neighborhood. I want to see what's selling for how much, what size. And then there's one more thing. I want to see what realtor's listing the land, who it was listed by, and who it was bought by. Listing agent, buyer's agent, because those are your land sales specialists with boots on the ground. You could be sitting in Jamaica doing this.
Yeah, love it. Actually, one of my friends is in Jamaica right now. I was supposed to be there too right now, but that's a whole nother conversation.
But you asked
and now I'm here with you, Brent. No, it's great.
Now I know where I want to pull this list. I have evolved. I don't go after the tax delinquent anymore because that's a very small list. You'll do deals. You'll get low-hanging fruit. And if you can get that list for free from your county, then go for it. Now counties are starting to charge for this tax delinquent list. So I recommend a program called PropStream. If anybody needs a free trial to that, a 7-day free trial, go to the landsharkslist.com. But here's the thing. They're going to charge you in 7 days, $99. So set your calendar to cancel that if you don't want to pay for it. But now that I told you how to find that hot area, and you could do this anywhere, Texas or Alabama or Georgia or like anywhere in the United States. I started in Colorado, right in my own backyard because I didn't know any better. So you go to PropStream. Now you're going to draw a little, rectangle, square, triangle of this neighborhood and pull all the landowners in that area and send them what I call a land offer letter. It's basically an offer amount that you're willing to pay for this land. And it's got to be a low enough amount. If they sign this thing and send it back, you are guaranteed profit. And I say, don't do the deal unless you can make at least $10,000 on it. So if anybody wants a copy of that land offer letter, I've been triple split testing this thing against postcards, against sending out like what looks like a check. And this land offer letter is by far performing better than all three or those other two put together. Go to thelandsharks.com/LOL as in land offer letter, or laugh out loud because you just got a smoking hot land deal. But thelandsharks.com/LOL to get a copy of that. Well, now how do we figure out how to price this? Like, oh my God, Brent, like I have no clue. Well, Redfin is showing you what similar size parcels are selling for and chunk things. Chunk, like what does chunking mean? Okay, you see that most of them were half acre, 2 acre, half acre, half acre. Okay, the half acres look like they're in the highest demand. Let's look at all the half acres and come up with the average price that the half acre parcel is selling for. Yeah. And that's how you do it.
So, man, so many questions. Okay, so do you also get into, let's say you see that the half acres are selling for that amount, but then you come across an acre. Do you then get in there and say, hey, let me sever it, let me divide these two and then sell them as two separate half acres?
That's tomorrow's mailing. We're going to go after the 1 acre. We're going to go
Yes.
after the half acres today. And
Yes.
then maybe there's a 3/4 acre parcel. Now we need to see what the 3/4 acre, like each, I chunk
Yeah.
them into separate mailings because the price per 1 acre might be selling for a little bit more than a half acre. So I like the pricing is going to be different on each one of those. So each day we'll mail a different size parcel until we exhaust all the land in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
So yes, if the county will allow you, what we call that a subdivide.
Yeah.
If we get a smoking hot deal on a 1 acre parcel, we call the county and say, hey, can we split this up into 4 parcels? We noticed there's a 1/4 acre lot selling across the street. What's the process of that subdivide? Now that's a whole lot more complicated for this podcast, but sometimes it's county will just tell you the steps to take. You take a few months, you spend some money on a survey and get it done. And now you have 4 parcels for sale.
Yeah.
So yes, there's additional ways to make money. I don't do a lot of subdividing. I like to keep it simple. I call myself a lazy land investor. I just want to buy it and sell it. And I prefer to sell it on payments because I want to be paid for the next 30 years on it.
Oh my goodness. Okay. You're making it sound way too easy here, Brent. Cannot be this easy.
It's work. There is work. And
okay. Now I feel better. There is work.
This is a process. And it's like once you build the bones, you build the systems and the structure. Like I just bought a piece of land. I never even spoke to the seller. Like that came back in my email. I had my real estate agent list it. I had 6 weeks to purchase it, but I was allowed to market it and find my buyer before I even purchase it. So it's not complicated. Real estate investing is not complicated. Real estate investors are complicated. We can build systems and strategies. And the reason why it sounds so easy is because I've been doing it now for like 7 years and I teach people how to do this. And it's simple, but you have to have blind faith to get those letters out the door and know something will come back. We track 3 key performance indicators, KPIs, how much we sent, AKA those land offer letters, how much we spent to send those land offer letters, about 80 cents a piece. And that's done for you, someone else doing it, and how much we made. Spent, sent, made. So we realize, okay, I made $10,000 and I sent out 1,000 land offer letters. Okay, I just spent $800 to make 10,000. So I know, and I'm just pulling this out of my hat from another student, I know that I'm going to make $4.87 for every time I send one of these letters. So if we can build that logically in our mind, okay, I got to spend 80 cents to make $4. How many times are you willing to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So why do you teach anybody else how to do this? I mean,
great question.
This sounds like I don't know. I feel like I'm listening to that guy that's sitting on the boat with all the women, and he's like, "You can make lots of money too." This can't be.
Yeah, I don't have the Lamborghinis. I don't have the boats. I don't have a boat, actually. I have a lake house.
Champagne bottles.
I drink champagne. I have a lake house that.
Of course you do. You're an Army officer.
You got to drink sometimes. I don't. Drinking doesn't serve anybody, by the way. I don't promote that. But I have a lake house. But I have a friend that likes using my lake house, but he has the boat, so he's got the depreciating. It's not an asset. I was going to say the depreciating asset. I got the appreciating one. So I use his boat when I want, and he uses my lake house when it's available. Anyhow, so here's why I teach this. Well, let me back up. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on education that I was the guy that would, like, when I graduated high school, I went to those seminars, like the Allen, I don't know, all those gurus that teach this stuff. And I was always like, sitting in the audience, like just like fascinated by how like successful those guys look. They have like a Rolex, the beautiful jackets like you're wearing. And I was like, one day I'm going to be that guy. And then I also was like, why is he up here telling his secrets? If he's making this much money in real estate, why is he
Yeah.
telling his secrets?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why I tell my secrets. In 2018, I had enough passive income I haven't had a job since 2018. I was making enough money coming in automatically. And basically my wife's like, you got to do something with your time. So I started like going on coffee appointments and I was training people how to do this. And I was having a lot of fun doing it. And I was doing it for free. And then found a coach. Anyhow, we started charging, and that was very lucrative very quickly. Which allowed me to buy more land deals with that money. And then, oh,
Yeah.
by the way, these students were coming and they're like, hey, I need $80,000 to buy this land, but it's worth 160. I was like, well, I don't have 80,000, but I know who can loan it to us for at 9% interest. So we do the deal. So I was doing more land deals now, and they were coming to me, and it was even less work. So I always feel like I'm a double agent. I get to see what's working all over the country with other very successful. Like I've got more students. Like I've got students doing way better in land than I am. Like making like $500,000 a year, $800,000 a year in land. And I'm like, for first 2 years, I was like, what's wrong with me? I got to step my game up. So I started expanding and hiring and taking on all this debt and rental. Like I bought an office, and like I had this office space. And then I started getting gray hairs. And then my wife told me, like, I don't like you. You've turned into a jerk, because I was building my ego and I was literally doing land deals just to pay my team. So we compressed. I now only have an assistant, one part-time acquisition manager, and a bookkeeper. And I'm wildly way more profitable now. So this is why I do it. My community, because it's boring. It's lonely being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Now I get to surround myself with friends that also buy and sell land.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it's great that you mentioned that, because a lot of people in the industry, you and I know, a lot of people sort of they make their money, and then what happens is, like, let's say, and I had this happen where a friend called me up and he was on a beach and he said, man, I wish you were here. And I was like, yeah, I wish I was too. Got the kids in school, can't be down there. And all I could hear was the loneliness. He had made money, but he had no one to be able to enjoy it with, and to be able to build a community around you and to be able to enjoy that. I really get that.
I have a young guy. His name is Andrew. He did very,
Yeah.
very well in land investing, and he literally went and sat on the beach. He was like, I'm unplugging for a year. That lasted for him for about 3 weeks. And he's like, I was, you can only sit on the beach so long.
Yeah. 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 I was just speaking at the multifamily real estate conference here in Canada, and Grant Cardone was the keynote speaker, and I was speaking on that card, and I was sharing with people. I said, you've got to have some sort of motivation beyond just money, because the moment your bills get paid, then you're going to be done, and you're going to be bored.
Yeah.
And so there is something important to it. So I appreciate that. Now I'm curious, is the process, and sorry guys, I'm just going to ask this because this is sort of a personal question, is the process to setting up those systems, is it, because I love looking at how can you pour more fuel on the fire? So part of me is like, can you set up that system in such a way that then you can just keep pouring more fuel on the fire? Or is it something where, like you're saying, hey, you know what? I realized it's better just to have a small team, enjoy this, and teach other people.
Yeah, I'll tell you, we poured a ton of fuel on the fire, and it's very easy to reverse engineer that. Once you see, okay, how many you have to send to make $10,000, on average, it's about 800 letters. Now, what if I send 1,600 letters?
Yeah.
It makes me about 20,000. How about 3,200 letters? Okay, that got us to the $40,000 mark. And then just you increase, and then sometimes you just knock one out of the park. And do that $150,000 land deal, and then you buy a $1.2 million land deal. So it's amazing how you can multiply this. It compounds. It's like a snowball. You start really small, and eventually you hurt your freaking back trying to pick it up,
Right.
which I'm guilty
Yeah.
of. So
Okay. Wow, that's really interesting. I mean, one of the parts that I like about multifamily residential is, it's very easy to scale. I mean, someone can start with, say, 3 units, and then you can move to 10 units, and then you can move to 20 units, and you can pour more fuel on the fire,
yeah,
so to say, and the systems that you need are going to be pretty much the same.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and so it to me, it occurs to me that it's simple to scale that way, and so of course I'm sitting here listening to you and going, wow, this is really interesting. I wonder what that could look like, because I also like the excitement of, these quick sort of turnovers and deals that you're talking about, because
yeah,
that's not the case in multifamily.
yeah.
It's
I
not
understand.
quick turnover, right? And even hard money lending, great, you make a quick transaction and then you're making money continually, which is great. And then you've got to go get your next deal and next deal, and
Yeah,
that's fairly ready. But there is something really shiny about being able to acquire land and being able to flip it over. So I guess that's what I'm curious about, is how scalable is
yeah.
that?
Well, I'll
um,
tell you, like we got 69 parcels of land that are paying us every single month. So we're paid multiple times a day. These guys never call unless they want to, pay more or change their credit card information. Sometimes they default, they get behind or they're late. But the software program that we use, easynotetracking.com, it costs me $99 a month, whether I have, 2 notes or 100. And each one of these land buyers, they pay a $25 a month note service fee, so that basically pays my bookkeeper and all that. But I'm not dealing with like I talked about that one rental property. I'm not dealing with having to replace a furnace and gutters and sewer line, and that was on one property. These land buyers, there's nothing can break. So
yeah,
it's and some of these are paying me for the next 30 years. Now, will they
yeah,
refinance or sell it on an up or a down market? Yes. Banks do the same thing. They know that most people move every 5 to 7 years, so that pretty much a 30-year mortgage is pretty much front end loaded interest, and that's
yeah,
why these are beautiful. Because for the first 7 years, it hardly pays anything down. So I'm trying to keep these payments coming in as long as possible. Now, if they want to pay off, I'll take the money,
right,
and then we'll buy some more. But I'm looking at is how do I do the least amount of work and get paid for the most amount of time. So I don't get excited on a $50,000 profit land deal anymore. I get more excited on $382 a month for the next 30 years.
oh, man, guys, I hope as you listen to this, you're as excited as I am. I mean, I'm just, yeah, Brent's tickling my fancy here. I love what you're talking about here. I love the simplicity in it, because anyone can start and get this started. It takes something if you want to get into the multifamily space. It takes something to get into that. It takes something to really get into the it takes money to get into hard money lending, and what you're talking about is really a low cost, low barrier of entry, right? So if you're listening, you you can't really come up with the excuse of I don't have any money, because Brent has just showed us and talked to us about his journey and how he did it with next to nothing. And so I'm really intrigued by that, if for no other reason than to go out and prove that this stuff works, and show people that. So I love that. So what now, Brent? What's next for you?
You know what? I'm very happy where things are at. We just got off a couple
Yeah,
week vacation, so I'm recharged and ready to go. We
yeah,
try and take mini vacations every month or so.
yeah,
So we're just going to keep building the financial income, selling this land with seller financing.
yeah,
Now I'm getting lenders, private lenders, reaching out to me that say, "Hey, I have money that I just pulled out of the stock market, or I have money underneath my mattress that I'm paying them anywhere from 8 to 12% interest." So
yeah,
that's been beautiful. So that allows me to do more seller financing. Now I have a lender to pay, but I don't do that roller coaster anymore where my bank account will literally hit zero and then I have to build it back up. Now it's like steady Eddie, and we just grow a little bit each month. I love teaching people how to do what I've done. That's like the emotional satisfaction of that. I get more excited when I get a new land shark than when I get, 5 acres in Daytona Beach type thing.
Wow. Okay. So where do people go to get more of Brent?
Yeah, you can check me out on TikTok, Brent L as in land. Yes, that's my middle name, Brent L Bowers 1, or call me on my cell phone, 863-801-6959. And if you want to schedule a call, you can go to thelandsharks.com. There's a couple ways. Hit me up on Instagram. I reply to all messages.
Brent, thank you so much for coming on the show. Great value, without a doubt, and definitely look forward to hearing more about your journey. And guys, check them out. Go to the website. We'll have the links in the show notes. And Brent, will see you and everybody else next time on the Leadership to Wealth podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today.